Alright, here are all my ingredients for my bread. Very simple. I have 2 cups of flour, half a cup of water, probably may not use it all, I'm not sure, a teaspoon of salt, and my starter has more than doubled in size. It was 2 1/4 cups, and now it's past 4 cups. So it's ready. It's nice and bubbly, all ready to use. So I'm going to measure that out, and then I'll show you what else I do with it. Okay, I don't have a mixer with a dough paddle, so I'm going to use my bread machine to mix my dough and keep it in there to let it rise. So I have my dough with my paddle. Let me try and do this here. And I have 2 cups of just all-purpose flour. So that's going to go in. And I just dip it and, level it off. So that's in there. Then I'm going to put my 1 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to sprinkle that in. Mix it up a little bit. My hands are clean. So I'm going to do that and spread it out a little bit. Then I'm going to put in my water, and I'm going to do just a little less than the half a cup. So I'm going to keep a couple tablespoons out because I don't know exactly if I'm going to use it all. And then here, last but not least, is my starter. And let me put that in and I'll be right back. Okay, so I dump my starter on top. Now I don't stir my starter down before I measure it. I just dip right in the starter. I take a measuring cup, I dip right in. Don't stir it down first. This is how I do it. So anyway, there's everything in there. So flour first, sprinkle over the salt, put a little bit of the water in, hold a little bit back, put most of it in, and then my sourdough starter. So I'm going to start this now, and I'm going to do it on my machine. It's the dough pizza setting. So that's what I'm going to put it on. I don't know if you can see that. So on my machine it's a Cuisinart, it's a 10. So I'm just going to start that. And it'll start mixing. And what I'm going to look for is to see if the dough is dry enough or wet enough. And I'll be back in a few minutes after this mixes a little bit. And I may need to add a little flour, or I may need to add a little more water. I have to see first. But I'm going to scrape all this flour into the mixture. Make sure it's incorporated. So I'm going to do that, and then once it starts mixing, then I'll be back. So the mixture is still a little dry, as you can see from the corners. So I have another tablespoon of water here that I'm going to add. I added the rest of the half a cup earlier. So this looks pretty good. I have some coconut oil here, and this is my pan. It's a baker. You can get these online, but not to worry, it's a clay baker. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can use a pot with a lid, anything like that. I'm going to grease this so my bread doesn't stick. Just a little bit of coconut oil or whatever oil you have, just so it doesn't stick. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to get my bread. The bread is risen, and I'll be right back with the bread. Okay, now the bread is a little bit sticky. I punched it down, it doubled in size. Now what I'm going to do is increase some of the surface tension of the bread. So I'm just going to fold it underneath, and as I fold it, it's going to become less sticky, and I'm going to fold the sticky part underneath. And this part is going to give us some surface tension so that when you put the bread in your baker or your pot, it's not going to just spread out sideways. It's going to spread more up. So I'm just going to shape it now into the shape I want it. And if you want a round loaf, you'll do it round. And if you want a longer loaf, like I'm going to put in my baker, I'm just going to do that. So then what I do is, the underneath part, I'm just going to roll the bread between my hands and kind of seal it underneath. Make sure it's all sealed. And that's it. So I'm going to make it into a loaf, shape it up, and I'm going to place it in my baker, seam side down, like so. And then, since it's about 11 o'clock in the evening here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it. And I use these plastic lids. You can get them at Dollar Tree, wherever, or a shower cap, whatever fits your pot. And I'm going to cover this. Now you can either leave this to rise in a warm place until it doubles in size. You don't want to over-rise it, because if you do that, it'll start collapsing on itself. So if you're going to leave it in a warm place, it takes about 4 hours. Check it. Once it's double in size, you're going to be ready to bake it. But since it's late in the evening, I'm just going to put this in the refrigerator until the morning. And then it'll slowly rise in the refrigerator. And what I've discovered is, if you let it rise slowly, the bread becomes a little more sour, which I like the bread sour. So if you want a more sour bread, then put it in the fridge for a while and then let it rise. Otherwise, if you like a less sour loaf, leave it at room temperature, but not overnight. If you're going to use it overnight, then put it in the refrigerator. And then we're going to take this out in the morning and let it warm up and let it rise about 4 or 5 hours till it's double in size. So I'll be back in the morning and show you how the bread looks. Good morning. It's 8:30 and here is my bread. I just took it out of the freezer and it's been in there since 11 o'clock last night. It's risen a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So now what I'm going to do, it's very cold. I'm going to keep it wrapped up, and it's got a lot of condensation on it there. I'm leaving that on there. And I'm going to take my bread, and I'm going to put it in my toaster oven with the light on. And then I'm just going to leave it in there for maybe 4 hours, and in a little while, once it warms up, I'm going to put a mug with some hot water in there that I'm going to microwave. But for now, I'm going to leave it in there just with the light bulb on and let it rise some more. So I'll be back when I put the mug in. Okay, it's been about 5 hours and my bread has risen very nicely. I just took it out of my toaster oven. I had it covered and this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to take a pair of scissors. I find this works the easiest, and gently just make some cuts so I don't have a bread explosion. And this is how I like to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. My oven, I've preheated it to 450. So now what I'm going to do is just going to cover this with the lid, and you can use a pot for this if you want, but I like my clay baker. They sell these on Amazon for, I believe, about $60. They're not cheap, but this is the brand. Turn the light on. This is the brand I use, and I've had it for years, probably at least 25 years. So I'm going to put this in the oven now. That's heated to 450. Then I'm going to turn it down to 400 as soon as I get the pot in, and I'm going to let it bake for 20 minutes with the top on. Then after 20 minutes, it should have puffed up nicely, and I'm going to take the top off, and it will be baking at 400 at that point for about 35 to 40 minutes until it's done. For me, this is the best method I've found so far. So I'm going to take a break here and put it in the oven. Well, while I'm waiting for my bread to bake so I can take the top off, which will be happening in about 4 minutes here, I've fed my starter. Now, this was what was left. This is what's left of the starter. I just fed it with a 1/4 cup of just regular flour and 2 tablespoons of water and mixed it up. And I haven't done this before, but now I'm going to put that in the fridge. So to cut down on my starter waste, I thought I would try this method. I've gotten some good advice from some people on YouTube, and they say they just keep a very minimum amount of starter and then feed it before they go to bake. So I'm going to try that. And this is the Kombucha Sourdough starter that I started at the end of January. I'm baking a loaf of bread with it now. I took a cup out for that bread, and this is what's left. I've fed it, and it's going in the fridge until next week when I'm going to use it again. If I go longer than a week, I'm going to have to pull it out and feed it again. And then probably when I take it out to use it, I'll probably have to feed it once or twice. But when it gets to the point where it doubles in size, in 4 hours it's ready to use. So that's what's going on there, and it's about time to take the top off my bread. So I will show you what the bread looks like in a couple minutes here. Okay, bread's looking very nice. I just took the top off. Now I'm going to put it back in for 35 to 40 minutes until it's done. Baking at 400 here. So I'll show you how it looks when it's done. And here it is all done. Beautiful loaf. Nice and crusty on the outside. Nice and moist on the inside with beautiful crumb. Turns out really good. So it took a while, but I think I finally got it. Beautiful loaf. I love the bubbles that it makes. So yeah, I'm addicted. It's so tasty. I love it. Now this is just a single recipe. If you want a bigger loaf, you can make 1.5 of the recipe, or just double the recipe. For me, 1 loaf is enough. It lasts me several days. So this is how I like it. But anyway, that's how to make kombucha sourdough bread from kombucha and flour. And there you have it. So thanks for watching, people, and hope to see you next time. Love you guys. See you next time. Love you guys, and thanks for watching.